So my Notion tour did a little better than expected.
What the fuck?
And a lot of you guys had some requests and questions. And I get it, Notion can be a lot. The same flexibility and customizability that makes it so powerful is what can also make it so daunting and overwhelming, especially if you are a beginner. But don't worry, I'm here to help. I know that a lot of you guys are students, but even if you're not, today is going to be a day to learn, because in this video, we have me, Professor Sab, and I'm going to take on the more lecture style teaching, and you and I are going to go through the most fundamental, the most basic parts of Notion, such that if you've never even heard of it before or you want to set it up for the first time, you should by the end of this video be comfortable enough to be using it on your own. And then there's me, TA Sab, and I'm going to be holding office hours, where the lecture is more the theoretical side of things. I'm going to show you how things like the functions and the databases look like in actual workspaces. And at the very end, we're really going to be doing office hours because you guys had some questions from my Notion tour, and I will be addressing them at the end of this video. So thanks for coming to class today, and let's get things started and learn how to use Notion. Okay, so now that we've downloaded my template and duplicated it onto a personal workspace, this is what we're looking at. Before we get into the nitty-gritty about how all of this works, we are going to start off by talking about what's around the screen, starting off with the sidebar. So to access the sidebar, what you can do is that you can go to the top left corner where you can press these three lines, and that should open up the sidebar. On the top here is just a way to toggle between your different accounts or your different workspaces. So this right here is the search bar, and it allows you to search your entire workspace. Below that, this is where we can find all of our settings, and it has all your personal information. And here are all of our different workspaces. Here is where you can create a team space. This is really relevant if you're working collaboratively. Templates is a system where Notion gives you all of their different templates that you can duplicate, but there's no need for those because you have mine. Now we've covered everything on the sidebar. Let's just go home real quick and let's take a look at what's on the top right. So here, the ellipses in the top right corner will bring out this box. The most important things here that I find are ways to change style. The fonts can be default, it can be serif, which is what I use, or it could be mono. If you want to change the text so that it's small text and full width, which is what I recommend, you can toggle the buttons here. There are also a lot of other options here, like adding things to favorites, undoing, importing, and exporting. Perfect. So now we've understand all the most important features on the sidebar and also whatever that is on the top right corner. Let's go into the tutorial. Okay, so class is in session, and I'm going to be teaching you all of the Notion basics. So to access that, here we are in the home tutorial, and if you download my template, which will be in the description below, you will see that in our database over here, our first one is the Notion tutorial. So let's go ahead and click that. And this brings us to our Notion tutorial. So this is the page that I made so you guys can follow along with what I'm doing and also have a reference to look back on everything that you learn in case you forget anything. As Professor Sab, what I wanted to do for you guys is that I wanted to create almost a workbook. So not only will you learn how to use Notion by watching this video, you are going to learn by doing it with me. Starting off with blocks. They are first separated into our basic blocks and our advanced blocks. And to use this tutorial, you're just going to hover over whatever it is you want to open and click the open. And that should open it in SidePeek. Just for a little bit of landmarking, here is our title. We're learning about texts today. Over here next to this black bar is just a description of what the title is. Below it in this bullet point is a shortcut to create text, and this is going to be our instructions that I want you guys to follow. So when we're writing in plain text, when you click a space, it'll automatically be there, and we can just go ahead and start writing. So I am writing in plain text. Perfect. First one down, guys. So for this function over here, if we start off in a bullet point, for example, and we want to switch it to text, what we can do is highlight it and then press Command Option 0, and that's going to switch it to our text mode. So a page is what we're in right now. This page function allows us to embed a subpage within our current page. So what we're trying to make is this subpage called New Page, and we can do that by pressing slash or page. And then perfect, that opens up a new subpage, which we could call New Page. And as you can see, we've perfectly replicated that. Nice. Next up is our to-do list, and like the name suggests, it's a way to track tasks with to-do lists. Okay, so we're going to try and replicate this, and I'm going to do that by pressing slash and typing out to do, and we can click that over there or just press enter. And then we can fill in our tasks. And then as we can see here, this one is indented, which we could do by pressing tab. And this is a way to nest content. Task 3. Perfect. Okay. Headings. There are 3 different kinds of headings, and let's make a big, medium, and small heading. I prefer doing the slash, so if you just do /1, that brings us to the big heading. Oops, not bug, big. /2 will bring us to medium, and /3 will bring us to small. Next up is a table, and this is just a simple table with rows and columns, and we can recreate this by doing /table, pressing enter, and we have that. Let's replicate this by naming the columns, name and date. Lists. We have bulleted lists, numbered lists, and toggled lists. Let's go through them in order. Bullet lists are what we've seen previously, or what we can see right here. It's just a simple bulleted list. The way that I like to put it is just by pressing the minus or the dash sign and then space, and that creates a bullet. So we can press task 1, and if we press enter, it automatically makes our next bullet point. We can do the exact same thing with numbers, but instead of clicking the dash, we can just put in the numbers, a period, and space. Go ahead, put task 1, press enter, it automatically goes to the next number, and that's task 2. And lastly is a toggle function, which allows us to hide and show the contents inside by pressing this toggle button. So let's recreate this. We're trying to make this open text, and when we open this, it shows the hidden text. I like to do it by making this sign and a space. We can make open text and press enter and write hidden text. Next, let's look at some stylistic blocks that we can do. We're looking at quotes, dividers, and callouts. Quotes are just a way to capture a quote. It's what I have over here. I like to just do /quote and space. Oh, or an enter, there we go. And then let's type in what's in the workbook. This is a quote. After that are dividers, which allows us to visually divide the blocks with this little gray line. And we can make it right here by going /div, enter. And then lastly, we're going to create a call out, which is what this boxes are. Let's go /call out. And even though /call out is the function, by the time you type in /call, this should pop up. So you don't have to write down the full thing. And enter, and let's call it call out section. And then lastly, in basic block, we're going to learn how to link to page. What we're trying to do here is create a link to the home tutorial. So when we click home tutorial, it brings us here. So how we can do that is we can go /link, link to page, and then it will give you some options of where you can link to. Let's do home tutorial. Dun, 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 dun. And we just did basic blocks. Since you guys are so good at this, and since this was so easy, let's take it up a notch and move on to advanced blocks. So our first advanced block is going to be a table of contents. This is going to show an outline of all of the headings that are in your page. So for example, if you have a really long page full of different headings and you're losing track of where everything is, this is where a table of contents really shines. So I've put in some headings over here as an example, and we're going to try and make this table of contents. And we can do that by going /TOC, table of contents, and it automatically pops it up for you. Next up are buttons, and buttons are a newer feature and they're so good. This is a way to run custom automations. A really good example for this is, let's say that you have a little part in your workspace and you want to have repeating to-do lists. So every day you have these daily tasks and they don't change. Let's remake this. Let's press /button, press enter. Here we're setting up what's going to happen when the button is clicked. Here, we're going to click insert blocks and recreate our to-do list here. As we've just learned, we can make to-do lists like that. And let's go ahead and type that in. Amazing. And we can also name our button here. This one is called daily tasks. So let's call it daily tasks as well. Oh my days. My typing. And we can press done, and we've created that button. Let's take a look at breadcrumbs, which is going to allow us to show our current page location. Since Notion can basically have infinite subpages, sometimes it's really easy to get lost where you are in your infinite workspace. Breadcrumbs allow us to figure out where we are. So let's recreate this breadcrumb to show this current page that we're in. We could do that by pressing /bread, press enter, and just like that, we're there. And not only does this show where we are, it allows us to click it and it'll bring us to our previous pages. Next up are synced blocks, and this allows us to sync content across pages. This is already a made block. If we click this, we can paste it anywhere in our workspace by pressing paste and sync. And if we make changes here, like adding task 3, it makes the changes here as well. Let's go ahead and recreate the synced block. If we press /synced block, we're gonna have to ignore all of this stuff over here, which I don't really use, and go to synced block, and then we could type whatever we want in it. Task 2, task 3. And lastly, in our advanced block, let's take a look at columns. So here we have 2 different columns. This is a really good way to organize information so you can make use of the space better. So there are 2 different ways to make columns. The first way is to drag things around, and let me show you how to do that here. So if I have column 1 and column 2, what I can do is press this over here, and you can see this blue line that appears. If we drag it to the point where the blue line comes vertically here, that creates 2 columns. However, if we want to make 2 subcolumns within this column, Notion will not let us do that, and this is where we have to use this advanced function. We can go ahead and do columns here, and now we can make column 2.1 and column 2.2. All right, so the last feature that we're going to talk about in terms of blocks is Notion AI, and this is something that is relatively new. It's just Notion's embedded AI system. It is very powerful in that you don't have to go to external sites like ChatGPT for AI. Everything is run in-house. The only problem is that it's $10 a month, and from one broke student to another, I can't afford that, and so I don't expect you guys to do it anyway. You can activate it by pressing space, and then you can ask AI to do anything. You can continue writing, you can summarize. So let's replicate this, which is just an AI summary, and we can do that by clicking summarize. And that, ladies and germs, is it for the blocks. We're doing so good. Yeah. So now that we're done talking about blocks, let's talk about how we can edit and manipulate them. Let's start with editing and moving blocks. Let's look at how we can select and deselect things. Okay, I know there's a lot. I was honestly having a hard time trying to decide what you need to know and what you don't, but just give this a very quick read and I promise it'll make sense. Let's start off by manipulating this block. What we can do is we can click on it and press Command A, and that's going to highlight the block that we are currently in. Here it says we can press space to open a selected image in full screen, and we have this as an example. So we can click this bad boy and press space, and it opens up as a full page. We can also do Command Shift click to highlight all of these boxes, and then we can press backspace or delete to get rid of those blocks, and Command Z to undo whatever you're doing. So we've learned how to select and deselect. Now let's move things around. Let's go ahead and put these tasks in order. So I'm going to go to this task 1 over here, press Command Shift and my up arrow, and that's going to put things in order. Yay! Another way to do this is we can go ahead and press this little thingy over here and move it until we see that blue line, and that will also allow us to reorder. If we wanted to move this entire page, for example, we could go /move to, click that, and then it could move to a different page. Hyperlinking is just a way to add a link to a bit of text in Notion. So let's say that we wanted to hyperlink the best YouTube channel ever, and there's obviously only one answer for that. It's this. So we're going to copy this link, we're gonna go back to Notion, and what we can do is select this text, press Command K, and that'll give us this little box where we can paste our link. And then lastly, let's look at how to manipulate the style and the color of our texts and our blocks. So the first way to make things bold is to put these little stars, put your text and close it, and it'll make it bold. Same thing with italicize. And then for inline code, you're going to press this button that's on the left side of the 1 on your keyboard. And then I'm gonna call this inline code. Oh, just as a quick note, if we are in inline code and you wanna get out of it, you're gonna press Shift Enter. And then lastly, for strike through, this is going to be the button also on the left side of your one, strike through, ta-da. But if you don't want to go through all of those shortcuts, what you can also do is just type your regular text. You can highlight it and hover, and there's all these options over here as well. So do whatever's easier. So if you want to change the color of our text, we could do what we just did and highlight it. There's going to be an option to change the color there, or we can press slash the color that we want, and it'll give us an option for making the text pink or the background pink. Let's do both. So we're going to press pink, and then we can call this pink text. And now we want to say a pink background, pink background. And that's everything for editing the blocks. I think we're halfway there. Okay, next we're gonna look at how we can navigate between the blocks. Let's open this one up and look at how we make new tabs and windows. So once again, I won't be going through all of this, but this is all the functions on making new pages, making new windows, but let's follow this when it says to open a new tab. So to create a new Notion tab, it's just Command T. And look at that, we have a new tab. If we want to quickly switch between pages, this is where you can find all that information. Let's take a look at our prompt. Go back to the previous page, which we can do with Control-Shift-K. So right now we're in switch between pages, Control-Shift-K. We're back to new tabs and windows. So we can easily switch between pages by using these shortcuts. And then lastly, in navigation, we can quickly toggle between light and dark mode by pressing Command-Shift-L. Ta-da! How fun. Awesome. So we've come to the big one. I think the hardest part are databases, but databases are really the bread and butter of Notion. If you're not using databases, you're not using Notion correctly. So I'm going to show you kind of the fundamentals on how to use it. All right, let's look at databases. So the very first step is actually making a database in the first place. But what is a database? It's basically just a way to store and organize other pages, and they can either be inline or full page. So inline means that you're gonna have a table like this. It's going to be in line with the page that you're in. A full page database is going to be on a sub page. So let me show you the difference. To create a new database, you can do /database, /database. Here's an inline, which will open up right here. But if we did database full page, it will open it as a separate page. There are also ways to open databases based on views, which we're going to talk about next, but right now let's focus on /database. So let's recreate this inline table, which we just did. Now we can name it to match what we have over here with inline table. And congrats, you just made your first database. So now that we've made a database, let's talk about all the different views. So databases come in 6 different views, which we're gonna look through over here. So I just made this class assignment tracker, and it's going to look different depending on what view we choose. This is a table view. It just looks at things in rows and columns. You can also change it to a board view, which is really good for categorizing things, or if you want to look at things as it progresses. You can look at a timeline view, and this is if you want to look at tasks based on chronology. This is the calendar view, which will show you all of your tasks related to the dates that it's assigned to. The list view is very minimalistic. It just shows your pages in a clear list. And lastly is gallery view, which I think is really good if you have any visual components that you want to add. So let's take a look at our prompt, try adding an assignment to the database below, and look at how it appears in each view. So let's add another assignment. What do we have to do, guys? What do I have to do? Let's look at my actual homework that I'm neglecting for this. I have to do my Anki. So we're gonna do Anki. What class is it related to? Let's say anatomy, and it's gonna be due tomorrow. So we just added that, and we can look at how it's added in the board, how it's also in the timeline, how it's in the calendar. And those are all the views. For sorting and function, databases can be filtered to only show specific information that you want to see, or it can be sorted or reordered based on whatever parameters you put. So to find it, you can find the filter and sort here in the top right corner of the databases. So what is our task? We want to filter the grocery list below to only show fruit. Let's start with that. So to filter to only show fruit, which is in this category, we're gonna click filter. We're going to filter by category, and it's gonna open up here. We said we only wanna look at fruit, so let's click fruit. So let's say we're going to the grocery store, we only wanna look at the fruit that we wanna buy. It's the bananas and the apples. To get rid of that category, you can go back there and just uncheck it. Next, we then want to sort the categories based on increasing alphabetically. That doesn't make sense, but we're gonna alphabetize the categories. Then we can go to sort. We can sort based on categories and ascending alphabetically. And there you go. Wait, is that right? A, B, C, D? Give me a second. Ignore me. If we were to sort it based on item, ascending, there we go. I think this shows it better. I don't know why it didn't work there. So that is how to filter and to sort. Now let's take a look at the properties. Properties are all of the different columns that we have. And we're gonna remake this table, so let's take a look at that. So we learned that we can make a database by pressing /database, and we're gonna make it inline. Let's copy this title, project, oh my days, yang, organizer. So these are the default properties that come with the table. We're gonna keep name, and we're going to delete tab for now. We can delete it by right-clicking on this header and pressing delete property, delete. And we can also resize each of the columns by clicking this. We made a name. I'm just going to copy the first one, Sab. So let's make a number property. Let's press plus. Over here, ignore all of this. No more AI. I can't afford it. Let's go to number. The number format can be a number with commas, percent. It could be all of these different currencies, but we're just gonna stick with number, and we're just gonna show it as a number. This will make more sense in a bit, but we can copy this as 1, 2, 3. Now let's make another number property, but we're going to call it work progress. Work progress. So we're gonna keep it as a number, but instead of showing it in this format, we're going to show it as a bar, as a completion bar. And then we're gonna keep all of this, show number, that's all good. And then let's say I'm 78% done work, and this will show up. Amazing, it's just another way to visualize numbers. Okay, so this is a select function, and a select function allows us to pick from different options. We're gonna call this vibes. And in order to add these options, so let me show you what the different options are here. It's good and bad. What you can do is that you can go to edit property and add options here. So good, for example. And then if you want to change the color, you can do it here as well. Change it to green. But what we can also do is add options by just clicking into the box here and adding it like that. My vibes are good, so we're going to click that. Next up is the status. Like the name suggests, it's just the status of where you are in the project, and this is automatically filled for you. You can change it if you want. I'm not going to, and I'm going to change my status to done. The due date can be done by going to date. Look at the format, you can look at the time. I'm just going to keep everything as it is, and it opens up a little calendar, and you can click when the due date is. You can also do person. Now I'm just starting to type it because it gets quite long, and this allows you to assign a task, for example, to a specific person, which is really good if you're working in a team. Next, we can look at checkboxes, and I'm going to call this completed, and we can just check that if we are completed our task. URL just allows you to link anything that might be relevant. So that was quite a bit, but those are all of the basic properties that you can put inside databases. I hope that makes sense, and I hope this is especially helpful when you're using my template and you want to add some properties of your own. We've made it to the last part of databases, and these are our advanced properties. So this is when things get kind of funky. This is where Notion gets kind of hard, but please stay with me. We're going to be talking about formulas and relations and roll-ups. Formulas allow you to manipulate different properties. As I said here, it's kind of hard. I'm not a coder by trade, I'm a science girly. I've linked some resources here if you want a cheat sheet and some examples of what you can do with formulas, but I'm teaching you literally the world's simplest formula. I'm going to teach you how to subtract. We have our debit card and our credit card. We have our income and work expenses. Let's say that we want to make a formula to show our current balance. What we can do is create a formula. And to create a formula, it's just like any other property. You're going to put the plus sign and you're going to scroll until you see formula. But we already have it here. So let's recreate this. To create this formula, we can just click into one of the empty boxes, and this is our formulas tab. To figure out the balance, we need to subtract the expenses from the income. So we can press income minus, oh, that's 2, minus expenses, and it could be done. And ta-da, it'll do it automatically for us. Now, I know like the proper programming people are rolling their eyes that this is the only formula that I'm teaching you guys, but this is the beginner tutorial. In my template, all of the formulas are already set up so you don't have to touch anything, but this is just an introduction to what a formula is, and with these links up here, hopefully you guys can teach yourself everything that the formulas have to offer and make something really crazy and automate whatever. All right, so the last part of the databases are going to be our relations and roll-ups. So this is how we create linked databases. The roll-ups will help combine data in our databases based on relations. And I hope I haven't lost you yet. Let me show you what this means. Here we have our expenses chart, and here we have our budget chart. Here are all of our purchases that we made. Let's say we paid for we paid for rent, internet, shirt, and pants. This right here is called a relation. What this does is that it relates this expenses table to this budget table, so you can see it over here. So as we can see here, we have the house and the clothes category in the expenses table that relates to the house and clothes rows that are in the budget table. So the relation is going to connect the two. The roll-up is going to allow us to see a view from this table on this table. So this roll-up will just show the sum of all of the house expenses. So 2,580, that makes sense. 30 plus 50 equals 80. And so we're taking information from this table and rolling it up on this table. Right now, our tables are separate. We have our expenses table and our budget table. Let's press the plus button. Let's scroll down to relation. And we are going to relate it to your budget. So that's that table over there. And we can show it on our budget if we want to. Add relation, and that shows this over here. So what we can do is click this, and we are going to click whatever we want to relate rent to, which in this case is house. Same thing with internet, with shirt, that's part of clothes, with pants, that's part of clothes. And you can see that those show up over here. And now what we can do is roll up information about this. So we're gonna press the plus button. We're going to go to roll up. Okay, so now we're gonna do a roll up. We want to take the sums of everything in the house category here and show it over here. Let's click the roll up. We're going to click the relation, which is going to be your expenses. And now we're going to look at what property do we want to roll up. Since we want the sum, we're going to want the property of amount. And if we just leave it at this, it will show us all of the amounts that are related to house. But no, we want the sum. So how are we going to change that? We are going to click this. We are going to this calculate button, and we are going to click sum. Hooray! And we just did a roll up, and that was databases. Guys, that's the hardest part. That was the hardest part, and you did it. You're basically a Notion Pro now, but I just have one more thing before we go to office hours, and those are all of the embeds and the widgets. First thing we're gonna look at is how to embed media. Let's open that. I know, wall of text, I'm so sorry. But these are just all of the things that you can embed. And to do that, we can do /embed, and we can literally put a PDF by clicking the link. We can upload it from our computer. You can embed Google Docs, a Spotify link, a video, a book. The possibilities are endless, and this is how you do it. Our last one is embedding widgets. And widgets can be downloaded from external websites. Here are some of my favorite, and you can use it to display information in a functional and in an aesthetic way. So I did have a lot of questions about doing things like embedding this calendar. I got it from this website called Indify. So let's click over there, and that'll bring us here. So this is my Indify account. It's completely free. You just have to put in your email. And to create a widget, let's do it together. We're going to create a new widget. We're going to create the weather one. I never name mine, whatever. And it's going to generate it for us. We can choose the location, which in my case is going to be Ottawa. Oh my days, yang. Ottawa. Awesome. We can look at the units. I'm so sorry to the Americans. I don't get the imperial system. We're going to stick with metric. And you can show how many days that you want to show. I just want to show 1. Oh wait, I lied. I want to show 0. And I can go to this clipboard over here. I'm going to copy the link, and then we're going to go back to Notion, and then /embed, enter, paste that in there, press enter, and magically it's going to embed this widget. And just like that, my students, we have completed our Notion workbook. I know it can seem overwhelming and I know it looks like there's a lot of it, but once you get this, honestly, you're good to go. You don't need any more tutorials after this. Unless I make another one, then you will need that tutorial. So that's it from Professor Sab. I hope you feel like you've been properly equipped with all of the tools and the things that you need to get started on your own Notion journey. I'm going to pass it over to TA Sab for any office hours, and we're going to address some of the questions that we had about my Notion template. And welcome students to the final part of the video. It is office hours. Some of you guys had some questions on how to use specific parts of my template, and this is where we're going to be addressing them. So let's start off in the home page. Some people had questions about how to add quick links. So let's say I want very easy access to my journal from this home page. What we can do is that we can jump to where that journal is. We're going to go to Self, Journal. We're going to click this database over here. We're going to copy link. Let's go back to where we were. And under quick links, I'm going to paste and put mention page. And now we have a very quick link to our journal, just like that. Another question was how to add things to the database, and let's look at the school to-dos as an example. To create a new entry, we're going to press new under here. I'm just going to call it task 2 and press enter to exit the typing part. We're going to skip this because this is just a formula and is automatically calculated. We can put the due date, and let's say it's due today, and it's automatically going to jump to the top of the list because it's sorted such that the things that are due soonest are in the top and due latest are in the bottom, and we could tag it to whatever it is related to. Okay, moving on to questions about the school template. I had some questions on how to actually embed your Google Calendar, so this is how you do it. You're going to go to the link that I have over here to Indify, and you're going to create a new widget. I've made so many clearly. We're going to Google Calendar, and it's going to generate a widget for us. Here you're going to sign in with your Google account and just allow it access to your Google Calendar. And then you're going to see that it magically appears over here. You are able to choose the specific calendar that you want to see. I'm just going to have my lectures open, and I just like to see it per day. Sorry, I'm moving my head. The camera is blocking my screen. And then, perfect, this is it. These are all of the lectures that I have every day. And then we're going to click this clipboard over here. That's going to copy the link that we're going to embed here. Let me just get rid of this. And then we're going to press /embed, enter, paste that, press enter, and then you're going to see that our Google Calendar is magically going to load here. So in our self board, let's talk about the finances, which is definitely one of the trickier page. Let me give a breakdown of how this works. So this is our balance calculator, and it's going to give an overview of our starting balance, our total income, expenses, and the balance. The balance is just the starting balance, and the income minus the expense. So this is our income table, and this is where we can put in all of our sources of income, how much it was, and the date that we received it, and this sum is what appears here in the total income. Let's leave the budget for now and move on to the expenses. This is your master list of every time you make a purchase, you're going to input it over here. Let's say we bought bubble tea. Under category, that would go under food and drinks, and this is a relation to this table. The store, it's not really relevant here. When did I buy it? Let's say September 14th, even though I know this is the August calendar. And this is also sorted such that the most recent purchases come to the top. And let's say it was $8. So that's how you add in new expenses. So when I added in that new expenses, that $8 under food and drinks was added over here to food and drinks under total spent. Just to show you the difference, take a look at this number and how it affects this number. Let's say for some reason our bubble tea was $1,000. We can see that the change was made over here. So this is how you input your new purchases. All right, so now we can take a look at the budget. These are all of the categories of the different purchases that we make. This is the budget that we set ourselves, and right next to it is the total spent in each category. This is a formula that just subtracts total spent minus the budget. So this is the amount that we have left allocated to this specific category. And this is another formula that tells us if we're under budget, we have a check mark. If we're over budget, we will have an alarm bell. And this is nothing because I haven't spent anything under health. So let's take a look at what it would look like if we were over budget. So let's say that our budget for food and drinks was actually $50. You'll see it becomes an alarm bell and that we're $55.80 over. All right, and another question I had was about this habit tracker. Once again, Red Gregory. How this works is that we have our habit analytics up here and our calendar with all of our daily habits. So I had some questions about how to change the daily habits. Maybe yours isn't the same as mine. You can go to any of the cards here on the calendar and make the modifications here. So let's say instead of meditating, what you want to do is bike to work. So you can click that, click rename. We're going to change this to bike to work. Press enter. And those changes are going to be made everywhere, as you can see here. The only thing is that you are going to have to also update that under habit analytics. So we're going to go to meditate, switch that to bike to work, press enter. And we're going to edit the property, make sure it's related to the correct one, bike to work, and that's how you make those changes. If we wanted to add a new habit, it would be very similar. We would go to one of these cards, we would add a property under checkbox. What's another habit? Water plants. Don't water your plants every day, but let's say that was a daily habit. And we could just enter that. And I'm just going to move her up a bit, and that's going to be a new habit, and it's going to show up everywhere. And then you can just press plus. We can go to roll up over here. We're going to call it water plants. The relation will be to daily habits. The property is going to be water plants that we just made. We're going to calculate it to show percent checked, and we're going to show it as a bar. Right now it says 0 because we haven't done it, but let's go here and click that, and we're going to see that it makes a difference there. And that's how to add a new habit. If we wanted to add new cards, unfortunately you're going to have to do it manually. You just want to make sure that you duplicate the ones that are on the same week. Just because this relates to the weekdays analytics and you want to make sure everything still syncs up. So if I want to make a new one for today, I can right click this, go to duplicate, and I can drag that over down here. And that concludes our video. I hope that you guys found this useful and that it properly equipped you to use Notion on your own. I love Notion, I've been using it for years, but it's taken me a really long time to understand all of the functions and how I can customize it to best suit my needs. I hope with this video you've better understood the basics, you've learned how to make databases and all of those things by yourself, and you know how to use my template and customize it to best fit whatever you need it to do. If you have any questions, comments, or if you have any ideas for future videos or tutorials, please leave them down in the comments. I love reading what you guys are up to, and I honestly read your comments every morning and every night. So write whatever you want down there, but please keep it nice. So as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!